Good evening, everybody. My name is Tom Stoukas, coming to you from Sarnia, Ontario, on December 6th, Saturday, December 6th. I was supposed to go check out a band tonight, and one of the band members got totally sick, so didn't end up going. I was pretty bummed out. So, what's going on in the X feed today? Couple themes I see is Elon Musk is getting going at it with the EU, calling for the EU to be dismantled, and he's fighting with them because they're trying to fine him hundreds of millions of dollars and trying to get him to censor accounts on X, not just accounts in Europe, but outside of Europe. And it kind of dovetails Musk's struggle with the EU, kind of dovetails with Trump criticizing them lately on their immigration policies and basically calling them they're not reliable allies because of their immigration policies. And now Elon Musk is attacking them or fighting with them on the censorship stuff. And it's funny because neither Donald Trump or Musk are talking about Canada. They're just really talking about Europe. And that's, the big problems right now is in Europe. Most of the migrant streams are concentrated into Europe because it's closer. It makes sense. And their censorship laws are way farther ahead than in Canada. Although Mark Carney wants to be more European, make us more closer to Europe, and he's working towards adopting those same censorship laws. We're in UK where you get a knock on the door because of a Facebook post. In Germany too, in France, it's crazy. And they want to bring that to Canada, so they haven't mentioned Canada, Musk or Trump, with regards to this, but I'm sure they will soon. But because Europe's more, I think, farther ahead on both fronts, like the immigration debacle and the censorship tyranny. Another thing on my X, besides the EU, is the media. They're conditioning us for a war with Russia. Right now, the US and Russia are in negotiations to try and end the war. But the Europeans, if they had their way, and Canada, if they had their way, they'd keep this war going full-blown against Russia. Because what they want to do is they want to break Russia up into tinier countries, and it's easier to control the resources, lots of resources in Russia. So they figure if they break it up, they can influence the smaller governments, the smaller countries. Who knows? I don't really want to go to war with Russia. Like, these guys are hot to do. Now they're planning articles in the media about the military and trying to make it more attractive to Canadians so they can go fight Russia. So those are the two main themes today. So let's get to it. Elon Musk never talks about Canada, which is weird because he actually lived here. His mother's Canadian. She moved away when she was young, like a baby. But still, she was born here. But he doesn't want anything to do with Canada because probably he sees what kind of government we've had for the last 10 years. I don't think I've ever heard him say anything about Canada. If anything, it was in a negative way. But even that, he doesn't barely mention Canada. Doesn't even register for him, which is a shame because we should be kind of attracting his investment from him and cooperation with him. Like a lot of things, like the Starlink and the Boring Company, like all that stuff. But no. But it's just, I just thought that was weird. how you can alienate the richest man in the world and one of the smarter business guys for future stuff. Like we have no relationship with that. That's why Canada's in the situation it is, because we'd rather import millions of like untrained, unskilled third world migrants who don't want to contribute anything to Canada, like they're here for the freebies. But we shun a guy like Elon Musk who could actually, do some exciting things in Canada, I think. So I thought that's interesting. 10 years I haven't heard him say anything about Canada. So here's the first post here. I seen this all day. Canadian Armed Forces see a surge in recruits. There's a lot of pro-war articles peppered around today. Pro-military, pro-war. So let's see. Let's read this. See, look at that. Go die for your globalist masters. Okay. I wonder what kind of recruits they're getting. Last time I checked, nobody wanted to join the army. Now they see a surge in recruits. Canadian Armed Forces are seeing a surge of recruits graduating from basic training at the Leadership and Recruit School. This marks a sea change after years of missing targets and grappling with how to get more Canadians signed up to serve. 5 platoons recently took part in parade marking graduation after 8 weeks of instructors putting 204 would-be soldiers, sailors, aviators, and new officers through the paces. Okay, whatever. I think this is bullshit. It just sounds like a graduating class of the military academy. They're just trying to pump up the military. They want the young people to join. And right now, with the bleak future that a lot of young Canadians face, they're trying to make the military look like this attractive option, but really they want to just send them to fight Russia. Recent changes in recent years are helping to beef up military ranks, including Ottawa putting more money on the table. It's pay raises. All right. So yeah, the recruitment process was also streamlined. Okay. Now, geopolitical tensions have drawn attention to securing Canada's sovereignty, including a focus on defending the North. The federal government is also planning a major cash infusion into the military over the next 4 years. I wonder why. That has contributed to boosting numbers, but also changing the face of just who is signing up. Who is signing up? Traditionally, most recruits hailed from military families, but okay. Who is signing up? Many other recruits now have no military ties. Okay. Listen to this. It's wonderful to have second and third and fourth generation CAF members, said Keeley, but having Canadians and new Canadians with no family history of the military suddenly showing up in greater numbers, there it is, saying they know there is a need to defend the country is great. I'm sure they're there to defend the country. They know there is a need to support Canadian security and the security of our values. Yeah. They're coming in as the very first person in their family or friend group to serve. It's a definite change. So basically they're saying what? New Canadians are the ones signing up for the military? That's just what we need. Can you imagine? That's the Indians. They're so desperate to not go to India that they'll join the Canadian Army. And they'll destroy the Canadian Army. It's already destroyed. But I bet you that's what's happening. Like the student visa ones, they'll be like, let's go to the Army. It's like Bill Murray and TAPS or Stripes. we'll have to look at that. Keep looking at that, but it's crazy. The military. The tampon military. Okay. Let's see what some of the comments say here. No, they have not. Okay. Propaganda. He's calling it propaganda. It sounded like a bullshit article. Like, I don't see anything. It's just basically a couple anecdotes and quotes from the military. Okay. It must be all new immigrants demonstrating their love for Canada as our way of our way of life. They want everyone to know that they didn't just come here for all the free stuff. That's funny. Probably because there are no other jobs available. Yeah, good point. Are there any of these recruits actually Canadians? Yes, that's a good question. Now, this is what confused me, because there was an article last month saying Canadian military falling short on recruitment housing needs. AG reports. So, who knows what the truth is? It's suspicious. They're trying to pump up the military to make it cool, and then, oh, we're going to send you to Poland to fight Russia or some bullshit. All right. And there is another post. Surge looks like a way for permanent residents to get citizenship. Or non-permanent residents, probably that's what it meant. Temporary residents. And way for the CAF to increase their diversity objectives. This isn't about patriot. So yeah. Joining the Canadian Armed Forces offers a fast-track path to Canadian citizenship, allowing permanent residents to expedite their applications. Okay, permanent residents. So you have to be a permanent resident to join the military for now? Oh, that's interesting. Like, you can't be a temporary. Like, you have to be a resident, PR at least. So I wonder how many of those we're getting. So I guess the student visa people can't join the military. You never know with our country. Nothing surprised me. So yeah, last month they couldn't get recruits. This month there's a surge. So who knows who's telling the truth. Next, this is usual Ride the Rocket. TTC in Toronto. I wouldn't want to go on. I'm a guy. I'd be all right, I think. But I wouldn't bring my kids or a woman on the TTC the way it is. It's pretty crazy. It's dirty. It's gross. It's overcrowded. Like, metro systems all over the world put it to shame. It's like a third world transit system. Even though they're building a bunch of stuff. So what happened here? Police released more images of suspect wanted for allegedly committing indecent act on TTC train. What kind of indecent act did he do? This is like TTC trains, the TTC in general is just horror story after horror story. People smoking crack, urinating, sleeping, stabbing, indecent acts. So that's kind of like what a third world country's like. That's what a third world transit system would be like. Some third world countries don't have transit systems, so if they had a transit system, this is what it'd be like. Okay, what did he do? So a November 25th incident that occurred in the eastbound 2 train. The suspect approached one person and tried to engage them in conversation. When his attempt was unsuccessful, he sat down and allegedly committed an indecent act in view of the victim. So I guess, was he jerking off or something? Probably. Police say the victim got off the train shortly afterward. Alright. So that's how they do it. I don't know why. I've seen videos of this them whipping it out in front of the women. I don't know why they do that. That's weird. But no, that's comment section. That's not me. Yeah, I feel bad for the women in Canada because they should be able to ride the TTC without having a guy do that to them. All right, that's just the ones they report. Who knows what goes on that doesn't get reported? Yeah. TTC. Elon Musk. Here's Elon. Elon's been saying a lot. He's been doing a lot of the racism against whites and attacking Europe and their censorship. He's been going on a tear lately. They're going after him pretty good. He says the people of Europe should withdraw from the EU to regain their sovereignty. So he's right. He's going right after the European leaders. And the EU's just a horrible organization. The way it's destroyed Europe, they have those migration quotas that they force on the countries, and it's just not democratic at all. The president, all the ministers are appointed globalists that want to fight Russia and destroy their countries at the same time by allowing millions of people into the country to rape and kill the women. So yeah, maybe you should break that up. I think it's hard to say if it'll survive or not. There's countries that, like Hungary, maybe Poland, that would leave. Anyway, this is Europe, let's say. European Union doesn't even get to propose any laws. The EU President and Commissioner an EU Commission of appointed bureaucrats make all of the decisions. The elected EU Parliament just rubber stamps whatever the EU Commission bureaucrats present to them. It's true, it's not democratic at all. And Mark Carney wants us to join this undemocratic body, which of course is not a surprise from the committed ultra-globalist. He wants to bring us closer to this model, the European model. All right. And speaking of bringing us closer, here's a good description of our immigration system. So you live in a Punjabi backwater, you adopt your village elder, half the village is descended from the village elder, the other half are married to the descendants, fly to Canada, work at Timmy's for 3 years, go back to India, apply for Canadian citizenship, click yes to take the oath, and until entire village are now Canadian citizens. I don't know. It's chain migration. They're pushing it big time. They're passing so many laws that make it easier to keep your Canadian to make new Canadians. You can become a Canadian citizen by clicking on one box online during a virtual ceremony. Why does this matter? This allows people who no longer live in Canada but applied for citizenship to instantly become a citizen. Once they become citizens, they can vote from wherever overseas. They request a ballot and have that vote counted in whatever riding they claim they last lived in. This allows our new citizens abroad to have a far greater impact on our elections by picking the tightest swing riding they can find and claiming that it's where they last lived in Canada. Okay, a lot of voter fraud. I'm sure there's so much voter fraud in Canada. This is a vote rigging scheme specifically set up to end credible elections in Canada. Bill C-3 will allow Canadians outside Canada to adopt as many children as they like, who then become Canadian citizens. This also applies retroactively, meaning many of those people who could now be grown adults with children of their own will also then get it. It's crazy, yes. But they have to be sworn in as citizens to vote. That's why this virtual citizenship scheme is allowed. People can become voters without even having to prove they lived in Canada. Yeah, so much voter fraud. It's horrible. I don't like the fact that we give out passports in Canada like Halloween candy. Do you know how many countries have foreign populations, but they don't give them political rights, like voting rights, and they're there as either like UAE, they have guest workers, so they're only there as guest workers. There's a lot of Asian countries that bring in foreigners on like teacher visas. That's all. No citizenship. And in Greece, for instance, there's millions of refugees in Greece. Some have been there as long as 10, 20 years, and they don't get citizenship. They get a piece of paper saying you're a refugee, and the idea is Greece wants to move them along. So they're not in a rush to hand out passports. But in Canada, we're in a rush to hand out passports to everybody who has a sob story, or who doesn't have a sob, whatever. But to every village, we'll give them all passports. And we cheapen the passport. It's like Halloween candy for these people. Like Halloween candy. And I think they're just going to abuse it, especially the Indians, because this chain migration, I have a feeling it's just going to be so abused, the Bill C-3. They're just going to abuse the hell out of it. So hopefully that'll just take care of it. The Indian immigration issue just take care of itself. Because when their annoying behavior and fraud and scamming causes the fatigue levels to rise to unsustainable levels, sometimes it'll just correct itself. We'll see. That's the optimist in me talking. All right. Here's Elon Musk calling for the abolition of the EU. So he's basically at war with the EU now. EU should be abolished and sovereignty returned to individual countries. So, okay, we read that already. Here's a book I have in my library. It's actually a book based on a documentary called Manufacturing Consent, and it illustrates media's role in conditioning the population to accept the prevailing narrative. So, like I said, they're conditioning people to accept a war with Russia, let's say. Maybe they're not. I think they are. Just like they conditioned people for the Iraq war and for whatever war or cover up whatever, like Indonesia was in the 60s, I think. They were like killing hundreds of thousands of people, but because they were a U.S. ally, the news only focused on Cambodia, the Khmer Rouge. So it's kind of like they just basically decide what the news content is going to be in order to condition the masses. So they're not trying to inform the masses, they're trying to condition the masses. So it's very timely today. Now, this documentary is made before the internet, and when the mainstream media had basically a stranglehold on the narrative, what was the narrative that was going to win out. But now with the internet, it's a little more difficult, but they're still trying, as you can see with Elon and the EU fighting over the censorship. So if you can, I think it's on the internet, this documentary, Manufacturing Consent. I recommend it. I have the book version, I guess. Here's more Canadians signing up to serve in the military. Yeah. That's it. Like I said, we're doing manufacturing consent. Manufacturing consent. All right. Elon Musk, he's really going after the Europeans. This is Keir Starmer. Free speech has not been banned in the UK, and we will arrest anyone who says it has. That's Elon Musk tweeting that. That's Canada. That's going to be Canada, too. It'd be wild when he starts tweeting about Canada, when he starts rage tweeting Elon Musk style against Canada. I hope he does. It'll be funny. It'll be good. We need a little criticism of these globalists running Canada. All right. Here's a good one from Zoomer Historian. If we don't implement remigration, then your grandchildren are going to literally live in hell, indescribable hell. Your great-grandchildren probably won't exist. You don't have a choice but to do everything in your power to make remigration happen. The alternative is unthinkable. And I saw that tweet, and I said, I feel the same urgency. Like, now is kind of the time to say something. Should have talked about this 10 years ago when they were like really increasing the numbers. But we didn't, because there was you would be canceled or called racist. But now we could talk about it, or we should talk about it. It's like, you got to talk about it now, because what's the use of talking about it in 10 years or 5 years? You have to, and some people don't accept how bad things are, especially some fake conservatives. But yeah, I agree. Now is the time to speak up. No time for pleasantries or worrying about masks or methods of certain groups. Just get her done. All right. Here's another thing I agree with. Donald Trump has warned immigration is causing a civilization erasure and turning NATO members, Canada probably included, into unrecognizable non-European countries and unreliable allies. The era of mass migration must end. So you notice, he's talking about European, but he's also could definitely be referring to Canada. But right, he just wants to focus on Europe because I think they're further along than Canada. But we're doing our best to catch up. I think Canada is just the only reason we haven't gotten as bad as the EU. I think it's bad here, but we haven't gotten as bad yet is because of the distance. Europe is a lot closer. It's harder to get here. But they're coming. They're coming. So Trump keeps saying stuff like this. It's interesting. And Canada it applies to Canada too. Like, everything he said there applies to Canada. So it's very interesting. It's very interesting because I was saying this, and he's like saying the exact same stuff. It's weird. Why is he saying it now? It's weird. All right. Mark Carney's coalition of support. Okay. This is a poll. Almost half of Canadians indicated they are satisfied with Prime Minister Mark Carney's Liberal government, while 40% are dissatisfied. So almost 50% approval. That's horrible. And you think, how is Mark Carney doing this? Like, is he that popular or whatever? And he's got an interesting coalition. He has those elbows up kind of retards, the boomer crowd who has the $1 million houses, and think he's going to save them from Donald Trump. Okay. And then he's got the immigrants. Like, if you're an immigrant and you want to get into Canada, Mark Carney's your man. Like, that's the ideal candidate for them to get into Canada, get their family into Canada. Pierre's not that much better, but Carney's very, very, very pro-immigration. So he's got the immigrant vote, and then he's got the fake conservatives, like the doughy conservatives who don't like Pierre Poilievre, and they're kind of fake conservatives, like centrist or liberal centrist. I don't know what the hell they are. They don't really believe in anything. They like the color blue, I guess. So that's who he's got. He's got those three big groups, and things could change, but the more immigrants he brings in, the more, votes they corral. So that's I think that's what his coalition's made up of. I don't think he's popular. I think he's just got the right coalition. He's got the woke crowd too. Not that they're huge, but they're pretty motivated. What's the word? On the ground, motivated. And he supports them 100%. Canada's still very woke, so he's got the woke crowd too. I put him in with the elbows up retards. All right. So yeah, Canada's big problems, and Pierre hasn't done anything to show that he's anything different from Mark Carney, except maybe a little slower on destruction of Canada. That's it. All right. Here's an interesting. This is Doug Ford's Ontario. The guy's been premier 7 years. And this is his legacy. Mayors urge Ontario to declare a state of emergency to address homelessness and addiction. That's Doug Ford's Ontario. Mayors of Ontario's 29 largest cities are calling on the province to declare a state of emergency. Community safety and humanitarian crisis created by homelessness, mental health, and addiction. All right. So yeah, a lot of these mayors are kind of responsible for ruining their cities as well. But there is a huge problem with housing and drug addiction and criminals and all sorts of things plaguing all these cities. But yeah, that's Doug Ford's Ontario, working hand in hand with the Liberals to destroy Canada. So they just want more money, these mayors. They're not going to fix nothing. But yeah, third world Doug Ford's Ontario. Okay. What's next here? More military. Okay. Here's another. That's the more Canadians signing up to save the military. Okay. That was in the feed all day. That was the top military story. Expect more military stories like this as our global commie trader leaders manufacture consent from Canadians, especially young ones, for war with Russia. You mark my words. Hopefully they're stopped with this war business, but they want to push it. Like here's the UK Ministry of Defence. Always ready, always on, protecting the UK and everyone who calls it home. Okay, let's see what this says. Hold on. Sorry. Let's see what this says. It's not playing. I don't know what's going on here. All right. That's fun. Anyway. Look at this. Okay. I don't know why it's doing that, so sorry, I apologize. I'll have to figure that out. But anyway, they're more propaganda for war against Russia. But this is what Mark Carney wants us to tie us into. These European guys who want war to get us into war with Russia. Let's get out of this, my technical difficulties. So that was the last video I wanted to show. Okay, damn it. Let's see if it. Anyway, I'm going to figure out my technical problems. Let's see. Now Michelle's working.
Which, to repeat a famous line in the House, we found on your website. People get their citizenship.
All right. I can scramble the signal. Anyway, I have no idea. I'm gonna have to figure that out. So that's what we're dealing with: censorship and conditioning us for war. So that's that was the main my X themes of the day on my timeline. Yeah. So sorry about the technical difficulties. So we'll do the next broadcast will be tomorrow, December 7th. I don't know what's going to happen. It's Sunday. Shouldn't be too much. We'll see. So until then, have a nice night, and we'll talk to you then.